What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 5 on It, a show where we do two things: smoke doobies and review movies. We are your hosts. Sorry, I'm already midway through a doobie right now. I'm Francisco, he's Sir Frazier, and today we are joined by our third co-host, Sporty Thieves.
I'm back.
Yes, sir, he is back here, and he is ready to review the 1975 classic directed by Steven Spielberg, Jaws.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Before we get into the review, Sir Frazier, what are we smoking on?
Man, I'm hitting this pen and I'm smoking on the Bermuda Triangle.
Are you smoking on anything over there, Sporty Thieves?
Yo, I'm smoking on that Aquafina Fresh over here.
Smoking on that life.
That life.
He's gonna get that contact though. Just y'all wait. About you, what you smoking, Cisco?
Well, as always, I got my trusty pen. It is Gushers, 88% THC, indica. It'll put you on your ass, but not me, because I am a veteran in the game, so I can hold my own shit.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, well, man, so let's go ahead and dive right in. So we're reviewing Jaws. This movie was released in summer of 1975.
Old.
This movie is credited along with maybe one or two others as, really setting the example of the summer blockbuster. It's credited with really kind of helping shift Hollywood's business model, even placing really much more emphasis on box office numbers, just because of what this movie was able to do at the box office. This movie's garnered 3 Academy Awards, one for Best Filming, Best Original Dramatic Score, and Best Sound. It was nominated for Best Picture, but did lose that year to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, I mean...
Also a great movie.
Also a great movie, starring Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. So the synopsis of this movie, so it's 3 disparate men band together to kill a man-eating great white shark that's terrorizing a small summer resort town.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward movie, but Sporty Thieves, I'll let you go ahead and give your first few thoughts about this movie, because we're going to have some contrast opinions, I believe, on this movie. Because I saw this when I was a youngster, and I just rewatched this last night and actually just finished it 15-20 minutes ago. But Sporty Thieves, what's your thoughts about it?
Yeah, it's funny. I think this movie might have one of the best openings that I've seen. Like how you classically would set up what it would be to live in this beach town of Amity. Of course, all of its the community members are sitting around, going to the beach and spending their time, their pastime in this area and stuff. And they just have this very beautiful shot of just the ocean. You can see the it's I believe it's a sunset happening, right?
Yeah.
And the sunset happening, you see the water is all kind of glistening and stuff like that, and then there's one of the a lady, obviously she goes into the water with her partner. Well, actually her partner is waiting on the shoreline, but she's already out there. But first of all, she went out there. In the water. She went deep in the weeds. But just how they set up the scene of just this is gonna be Jaws, even from the beginning credits when you would see the underwater kind of before the title, and you would kind of go through kind of the seaweed and stuff like that in the water, and I was okay, you can hear the score. Go out in the water, and just her alone too, and just seeing her silhouette, from the underwater camera before she actually gets attacked.
Yeah.
I felt that was a classic, probably a 10 out of 10, just intro.
Man,
to the movie,
because you're really setting the stage. Because especially when you watch this, you have to put your mind at what time the year was. It was 1975, and so. you're just thinking like everybody just wants to go into the beach, go into the water, have some fun. I mean, I wasn't born in 1975, but you're probably not thinking that sharks or really anything out in the ocean is really going to come up and get you. And so when you have like somebody out there just whether it's on a vacation or just having fun in general, and then they just get pretty much just swallowed up by something, it really sets the stage for what you're in for.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off of what I think both of you were speaking to, I think from the opening sequence, we see underwater from the perspective of the shark, and you hear that timeless score by John Williams. It was very interesting. So I was reading about this, and they talked about how like that opening sequence, how it was almost trying to, how the way that it intensifies as the shark was about to attack. It was almost trying to like mimic like the shark's heartbeat as he's about to attack. So I thought that was a really interesting way of thinking about it when I was like watching the movie. But I think that what this movie does so effectively is what it doesn't show us, because I think that the way we pivot from the ocean depths to the beach, where Chrissy is doing very innocent young girl, doing what summer kids do during the summer, right? Drinking around a campfire, and then you see her go out to this ocean. You swims out to the ocean, and she did an incredible job acting. Let's be real. I mean, she sold that. That was a very convincing, given the fact that we don't even see the shark. We really don't see the shark until an hour and some change in. Yeah, like half. And this is a crazy stat to think about too. And this goes back to why this movie was nominated and won for editing. Is that this movie is over 2 hours and the shark is on screen for 4 minutes.
A total?
Really? A total of 4 minutes. Oh, wow. That's how long the shark is on the screen.
Which that kind of comes into why my score will be on the lower side. I want more shark.
But to that, I mean, like to that, this is where you can kind of this is where I give like the nod to like Spielberg, like young Spielberg, while he's directing this too. I mean, like how do you portray this animal, this intense animal, and like really expand the boundaries of like how can we show a shark without having to show the shark all the way through the film. It's funny too, because I mean, technically, is this a horror film? Is this a thriller film? It kind of, for me, it kind of lands more in like the thriller side.
Yeah,
suspense.
Yeah,
that's where like some of my like
I see what you
negative
mean.
A bit comes into play, because like I feel like I don't think I can categorize this as a horror film, because it's like if it depends on what you feel like is horror. I feel like as far as like genres, it's not like black and white like a comedy. Like if it's funny or whether it's funny or not, if you're looking at a comedy or an action movie or a drama. But like with horror, it's like if you think, okay, like let's take even like a more like modern day, like a Hereditary. Like if that's like in the dead center of horror, where would this fall on that spectrum? Yeah, I feel like this would be completely out of there, because like I don't like when I'm watching this, I get more thriller. I don't really get too much horror.
Right, but I mean, I think that that's probably true of a lot of those movies where the antagonist essentially is a monster, right? Where they're talking about Jaws, Alien, Godzilla, like a lot of, I think that probably extends to a lot of them. I think there's a terrifying aspect of it, but I would categorize Alien, for example, as a horror movie. I categorize this as a horror, personally.
Well, Alien.
Predator is another example.
I think Alien and Predator are Alien for sure. The first Alien movie is definitely a horror movie. Predator, that's like horror-ish, but it's like that's like kind of action, sci-fi.
Like
to me, it's like, I mean, with Alien, like
it's like
it's horror, like it's horror sci-fi, but it's like I'd have no problem just like, yep, we're living in a horror sci-fi world. If they're like Jaws, I don't know, I just can't, like if it's horror, that this is like 10-20% horror, 90-80% thriller for me.
But that's why, I mean, even to like the movie's credit too, it's like it's hard to classify this. It can dip in like a little bit into the horror. It can also dip into like the thriller suspense. Which gives you like a range.
There's an element of drama.
Because the movie itself, like I'm not gonna give it a bad score, but it's like it will bug me. It bugs me the same way that when people say Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I'm just like, I don't know.
It's like it happens around Christmas time.
I know, it's like technically, is it?
Was Macaulay Culkin in it?
I know it's like if the horror to me is definitely playing second fiddle, maybe at least minimum third fiddle. They're not in first chair on that choir.
Maybe suspense is maybe the better. Maybe fits a little bit more accurate. I think there is a horror aspect to it because let me tell you, man, as a kid, thinking about a shark like that in the water is terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like I as a grown man.
But then that's getting in the way of like, because then like you can take a movie that's like a drama movie about life and the struggles of life, and it's like that's a horror movie. Because of like the struggles on life is the scary place of having to pay bills and the product of going homeless or some shit is like that's where it's like what is really scary.
Okay, but let me say this though. Okay, I do agree. I think that there are elements of just regular dramas that are horrifying because they like the immediacy, right? Like something that could potentially happen. But I think that when we're talking about a monster or like a man-eating great white shark, and we're also talking about the ocean, which I think in our history, human history, has kind of represented a mysterious but also very terrifying terrifying space. I mean, hell, you think about it, we only know about what a single-digit percentage about the Earth's
ocean
depths because so like I think that it occupies a kind of there is something I think that the ocean represents as terrifying in terms of the way that how little we know of it.
The
unexplored. You know what I mean? Like I mean, you think about all these stories about man eating like octopus, right? Like just these, like you know what I'm saying. So I think that why I kind of can understand or why it does resonate a little bit as a horror.
Well,
does that make sense?
Because like it's very alien-esque. Like just because it's on Earth is definitely alien in the fact that that's not where we like can live. We can't live in the ocean. So if you go there, it's like we are not on our home turf.
Yeah.
If like when you see like let's say like even like a monkey or something like that, you could just be like, well, you know, I'll just shoot that fucking thing and call it a day. But like with something that's in the ocean, it's just like I can't see it. I can't move around as freely as I want. There is a definite like horror aspect to that.
I think
they definitely do a good job, especially with the score. It is a classic score. John Williams won Best Score at the Academy Awards that year. That definitely gives into like the suspense to the movie.
Well, and to your point about like scores, I mean, when I think about horror scores, I mean, this comes to mind and the Halloween theme comes to mind. I mean, those are so eerie and effective, and you always see them right when the attacker is about to get. What was that?
Isn't it both John Williams? Didn't John Williams do?
Damn, I don't know. He's on a. He's got to be in the Hall of Fame just for those two alone.
I think he did. I mean, John Williams did a shit ton, but I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but yeah, I mean, it's a classic theme. But I will say though, just like getting on like the acting aspect, old boy that plays Brody is like, I mean, he is the protagonist of the film. You're following him, like you're following the film through his eyes. But he comes in third with like the characters in the movie, like is it Hooper or Hopper? I can't remember. Hooper.
Yeah, Hooper.
I always want to say Hopper, but Hooper and
Dreyfuss.
And Quint,
and Quint, man.
Definitely. I mean,
Quint, man, he steals his scenes.
Especially with his introduction, it's like when they're having like the meeting or whatever, and he's sitting there. At first, I thought he had like a hook for a hand. He had his arms and his legs kind of crossed, and I was like, "Oh,
eating his crackers."
I was like, "Oh, he wants that revenge because that shark took his fucking hand." That's what I was like. I was thinking in my head when he was talking. I'm like, I bet. What's his name from Happy Madison, but Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is where he took it. But no, he gets up and I was like, oh no, he got two hands.
Damn it.
And then he scratches the chalkboard. For me, I was like, oh my god, can I put this on mute real quick? That's like one of like the worst sounds.
Well, that's a quick way to just be like, if you make that, you're like,
grabber.
Hey, yo.
This dude just in the back, all of a sudden,
and he's just sitting there just like, oh, you want to take a shock, yeah? It's gonna cost you 10 grand.
Y'all know me. Know how I earn a living. I'll catch this bird for you, but it ain't gonna be easy. It's bad fish. Not like going down the pond chasing bluegills or tommycods. This shark, swallow you whole. Shaking, tenderizing, down you go. And we gotta do it quick. That'll bring back the tourists. That'll put all your businesses on a paying basis. But it's not gonna be pleasant. I value my neck a lot more than $3,000, Chief. I'll find him for 3, but I'll catch him and kill him for 10. And you gotta make up your minds. You wanna stay alive and ante up? You wanna play it cheap? Be on welfare the whole winter. I don't want no volunteers. I don't want no mates. There's too many captains on this island. $10,000 for me by myself. For that you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Yeah, which is funny too because that's one of the things that I pointed out when like the attack happened, and then they put like the sign up on like the town hall, and then when they're like, they said $3,000.
Yeah,
$3,000 reward for anybody who can kill the shark that killed the boy or whatever like that. I'm like, how would they know exactly?
Exactly.
The shark.
But
100%.
But at least that's why they got Hooper there.
Yeah.
And so like, because he's just like, yeah, well, like this shark
The bite
looks
radius
like maybe,
don't
but
look-
he's like, the only way we're gonna know if we cut this thing open, and but they're just so willing to just like look past that. It's like, nope, let's just like call it a day, because like
Problem solved.
Oh, because like the mayor, it's like how you were talking about, like it takes place in like a small town, and in small towns, if you shut the beach down, that's a lot of money coming
That's
in.
the money making.
So
Yep.
it's like
Yep.
you're juggling that aspect of like, what would you do in that aspect where if you shut the town down, like you might be killing the town.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to
Yeah.
take that risk of like, maybe like, because you're at that time it's the 70s. You're probably thinking it's the shark come out. It's the ocean. What's the chances of that shark gonna come back?
Yeah.
And the odds are big because Hooper makes it known of like, you know, how territorial it is, and once it gets a taste of like food and like in that area, it wants to just eat up everything until it's gone. And so I mean, the writing, everything is pretty much on point. I can't, even though I want to hate on the movie.
Oh, good grief.
I
Why do you want to
wanted
hate?
because I saw this movie when I was a young kid, and I hated this shit because it was long, it was boring as fuck. You can't tell me, like, you show this to any probably like 7-year-old. No, so show me a 7-year-old that's gonna watch this movie and be just like really into it.
Right. But I mean, like, it's not a kid's movie, though.
But exactly. So I watched it at
To your point.
I
Let me
watched it at a time where like my eyes and my brain wasn't
Yeah.
ready for it.
I know what you mean.
This isn't a perfect film. I'm not giving this a fucking 5. let's get one thing straight.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, I ain't giving it a 5, but I definitely enjoyed it to like even like E.T. when I never saw that like growing up, and I saw that not too long ago, like a year or two ago for the first time. Enjoyed it.
Tearjerker.
I enjoyed E.T. more than I enjoyed Jaws. I will say that.
Oh, okay.
But Jaws, all in all, it was a solid movie though. Very good.
Well, you know, I think one of the great things about monster movies, I think, is that it kind of couples, like, you see like the juxtaposition of like the human dynamics, right, and like how society responds to the threat, right? You see like the interactions between individuals, and then how like the society at large kind of responds. And I think that like you kind of see that like the humans are in the foreground, right? Jaws is always was lurking in the back, right?
Yeah.
And I think in the first half, the thing that does a really great job of doing is it establishes like the threat posed by the shark, but it also focuses on like the chaos and panic brought by like the attack and the ransom. Because think about just how everybody mobilized and everybody is gung-ho trying to get this shark, right? It kind of brings out the ugliest like aspects of the people, right? Because what should be in the foreground is providing safety, which Brody's trying to do, trying to make sure that what happened to this woman's son, which is an incredible scene, we got to talk about that, but making sure that he isn't but what happened to him doesn't happen to anyone else's children, right? But instead, this becomes a cash grab. Everybody is just trying to get paid. Nobody's really thinking about, even the mayor, right, Vaughn, his concern isn't safety. His concern is, no, we need to be open.
Yeah,
and
well,
you know, an
that's-
interesting detail that I didn't notice until I watched a breakdown of is, remember when Brody's trying to go to the swimmers to bring them out of the water, and the mayor and all the other guys get on the car and they get on their rig with him.
Yeah.
When he opens the door, it says Vaughn Realty. So not only is he a mayor, he's a realtor. So he has significant investment in making sure that the cash keeps flowing, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the different layers of conflict there too. Like, yeah, conflict with the animal, like the shark. Conflict with Brody being like the chief, like the new chief of like this town. And you kind of get like when you're first introduced to him, you don't seem like he's like he knows everything. You know, he's getting like adapted to situations, especially like, you know, this new situation with this, you know, shark out here, and like this is something new for him. You start like learning like the conflict with the mayor, and like why, you know, hey, like there's like this crazy accident that happened, but how do you manage the I guess like the conflict or the townspeople, so they're not going to be like, well, he had said something. There's a line he said like, tell them if it's you know, you can say that. What did he say? He said like you can say like if you tell the people that it's something versus another thing, you know,
or a
like,
barracuda or something, right? Yeah.
You know, and it's like, yo, you tell them that it's a shark attack, like the town's gonna go into panic, you know. Yeah. So he's just like, it's crazy too, because he's like, because even today, bro, we have to do that. Like, how do you manage risk? You know what I'm saying? For mass, but also like it's inspired by something. You know, he obviously wants like this. Like the town to stay open, the beaches to stay open, so he's making money.
But he doesn't even like really acknowledge the true nature of the problem until like his kids are put
in the water.
Yeah, and like that's when he has that like acknowledgement of just like, oh, my kids were out there. Like when that one of the last sharks comes onto the beach
when he kills the boy.
Yeah, and it's like, No, he does kill somebody because that's like one of the. Oh, I was gonna make a note of that shot that it comes like it's an aerial shot and you see kind of the shadow of the shark. Like you see the dude swimming because it just got knocked over.
The boat,
and you see that shark just come and just yank that dude's leg, and you see the leg kind of fall off in the.
That shot is terrifying,
dude. Because you see how big it is. I was like, oh, yo,
bro.
When the leg hit the bottom, I was like, this is some crazy like prosthetics right here.
Yo, for real.
Like,
the chunks.
That thing looked so real too. Yeah. I was like, man.
That was horrifying, bro. Because you see it knocks him over, right? It comes for him, and you see a little bit of a glimpse, right? And then it comes up again and got him, and you're just like, oh, damn. Well, that's the first time we see the shark. Yeah. That overhead shot.
Was that
that's the first time? Because we don't see him when he kills the little boy on the raft. Remember, we just see like the blood and the raft getting upturned. Yeah. That's the first time we see the Jaws.
God, but then it goes back to like kind of a previous review when we talked about Leon, the professional, saying like kids do stupid shit. It's just like the kids in this movie, and like they're playing around with the sharks, and they're like, "Oh, it's just some kids and everything." Yep. And I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be some crab wolf shit." Because then they start seeing the other shark, you start hearing it, but then Brody doesn't really like kind of like jump to it immediately because they're like, "Well, it's just probably some other kids fucking around." But then that woman's just like, "It's over in the pond. It's over in the pond."
And you see it go under.
Yeah,
you see the shark. Yeah.
God, and then you just think like Brody was just like, just put the boat in the pond. And he's like, that's where the old ladies are for.
He thought he was protecting his son. Yeah.
I know, and it's like you can't protect them at all when, like, in the ocean. Yeah. In the ocean, anything's up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean that goes back to like the aspect of like horror, right? That's what makes that horrifying. Is like, yo, you don't know what the hell is out there that could get you.
Yeah,
and I think like going back to that the second attack, right? I think it's the second one with the little boy when he dies, like. One of the best parts about that scene is the misdirection because we see from Brody's perspective, somebody's hollering. It turns out the girl's on her boyfriend's shoulder. Yeah, that's why she's crying. She's screaming. Yeah. We see the dog, the guy playing fetch with his dog, right? But the dog never's come back. So we just see the bark, the piece of wood that was going right. Yep. And then when we finally see. From the underwater perspective, like Jaws going for the kid, that dolly zoom shot of Brody is perfect.
Oh yeah.
That is like such a great effect. It's such an effective use of that. You know what I'm saying?
It's a classic shot now.
Yeah,
it's crazy too because like that shot, like just like a couple like frames before that too, when like the guy comes up to him on the beach and like tries to talk to him, and, like you see that split where you see the guy in the foreground, but you can also like the background is also in focus as well too. Yeah, I was like, man, that was a crazy shot, and then then it proceeds to like, oh, when the shark attacked the kid, it was like on high alert.
Yeah, And then one note is just about this movie. Obviously, it came out in 1975, so it was nowhere near what the technology is where we have today. But coming from somebody who pretty much have just watched it for the first time, I mean, it holds up. I mean, yeah, there are some moments when like they're all on the boat and they're kind of just hanging out talking outside of the boat. And like you can kind of tell it's like, yeah, you're on a set. That's just, that you're not actually outside or anything. But it doesn't really take you out of the story. it's just like, oh yeah, you kind of notice it, but it's not like a huge. It's not like when in E.T. when they're flying the bikes in the air, you're like, oh, this is,
you can
this
tell.
is comical, like how bad this looks right now. I didn't even like I was trying to look at the shark even at the end. When like you can see more of its body and stuff coming out, I was trying to like really be analytical of it. Like, I mean, I've never seen a shark up close, so I don't know what the fuck I'm looking for. But I'm just trying to see like, can my eyeballs to my brain like, you see something, you're like, this looks fake as fuck.
Yeah.
But then you see, I'm like, I mean, this
actually pretty
this
cool.
looks pretty
Bro,
good.
to your point,
especially
man.
when Quint gets fucking gnawed on.
Oh my god, man. Yo, I think to your point though, like I was going into like the shark scenes, like really trying to find and scrutinize to see, does this look fake? Does it
still
age
hold
up
up?
well? And god damn, it's still. I know. You know how I know it's effective? Because there are scenes still where I get goosebumps. I'm like, holy shit! Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when it gets Quinn, that is first of all that whole scene. So, I know you're jumping a little bit further. That whole scene where he falls down and the actual shark sinking into him and the blood work of like him coughing up the blood and then them slowly dragging him under the water. That's a long shot, and he actually held his breath for like a good like 4 or 5 seconds as that scene went on.
Oh, did he really?
As they took him underwater. Because you think about it, they hold on that scene as the shark takes him down it holds on that for a couple of seconds.
I mean, I will say, like, I know I do give it a little shit for, like, it's not a complete horror movie, but that is a horrifying thing because like I said, I'm watching this through Brody. I'm putting myself as Brody in this, and so you're seeing this captain of the ship just got fucking taken by the fucking shark, and now it's just you on this damn boat, this sinking ship, and so I'm just thinking like, okay, obviously this is a movie, but I'm like, even if he kills this shark, how the fuck is he gonna get back?
That's exactly what I was thinking too. Like that, even that element where you're like,
about to be Leo up in this bitch.
For real, it's just like, yo, this ship right here just got destroyed by like this shark.
Mm-hmm.
The water is seeping in, and like every time they go to the back, it just gets higher and higher and higher.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, like
this shit's sinking.
Man, seriously, and I'm just like, bro, like what is like they are out there too,
Yeah.
Like how is they gonna get back? Yeah, hypothetically, even if you do kill the shark,
Yeah, because I mean, the ship's already total wreck. But I was like, even if you could somehow salvage, like, didn't a Quint destroy the phone?
Yeah, dude, I was so pissed at him when he did that.
Bro, I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Seriously,
why did he do that?
And
I think that, man, I'm trying to make sense. I was trying to make sense of that.
He explained it why he did it. I can't remember what he said though.
Wasn't it like a pride thing?
I think it was a pride. I think that also. Huh?
I thought like he didn't want to like get help from anybody. He actually wanted to like.
Yeah, he's like we can. I think there was pride in that too. He's also a very haunted character. That's something you learn as the story, like when he shares that story about the USS Indianapolis.
Oh yeah,
well, like when they're sharing, like they're going back and forth and everything,
which is crazy.
That was a great scene. It really unlocked that character.
Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief. He was coming back from the island of Tinian to Leyte, just delivered the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb. 1,100 men went into the water. Vessel went down in 12 minutes. Didn't see the first shark for about half an hour. Tiger, 13-footer. You know that when you're in the water, Chief? You tell by looking from the dorsal to the tail. What we didn't know was our bomb mission had been so secret, no distress signal had been sent. They didn't even list us overdue for a week. Very first light, Chief. Sharks come cruising. So we formed ourselves into tight groups. Kind of like old squares in a battle, like you see in a calendar, like the Battle of Waterloo. And the idea was, shark comes to the nearest man, that man he start pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white, and then... Oh, then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming. The ocean turns red, and in spite of all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in and they rip you to pieces.
Which is so ominous, too, because, like, he basically predicted his own death.
Yeah.
He basically talks about, like, in that story, where he talks about, like, you know, like, what do you say? Like, somebody's getting bit in half. And, like, you can
one of his friends. Yeah.
And then, like, you can hear...
That's great writing.
You can see the eyes. Like, the eyes are black.
Yeah.
And then, literally, that happens to
the
him.
next scene. Yeah,
that
basically.
happens to him.
Well, what was also crazy is, like, I like the kind of, like, that kind of chilling... Like that, because I mean, it's basically as a monologue, right? But that chilling comment he makes, like, I'll never put a life safety vest on again, you know. And when the time comes, he hands them to both Hooper and Brody. You know, because I think that for him, like, he's like, I'm going down with this. It's him or me. You know what I mean? Like, I think that kind of spoke to his trauma of, like, being in that circumstance.
Well, just like that captain of the ship. He's not going to abort. He's just going to go down. Yeah. One like cool shot though was at the end when Brody has the gun and he's got he's trying to get the shot on the tank, but the ship is leaning and he just kind of leans over to the right. I was just like, oh, he's trying to get that angle, boy. You better shoot good.
Talk about money shot. God damn.
You get like how many times? How many do you have? Like 3? I think he like fired that thing like three times until he.
Was it the third one or the fourth one? Something like that.
The third one or whatever. And bro, you were like, hey, bro, you're at your last second, man. Like, you're about to go into the water right here,
dude. You about to be with Quinn.
Dude, and like, yo, think about it too. Like, blood's all in the water too. So I was like,
dude, that's what I was thinking too. I was like,
sharks are coming.
Oh, great, there's more.
That's what I was thinking when like all that shit happened. I'm like, well, shouldn't like another shark or wouldn't like some other thing be coming up and be tickling your feet? You and fucking I always want to say Hopper. You and Hooper are now on like the paddling back, I guess.
To shore.
Yeah.
Do you see a shoreline?
Not at all. Well, it's funny because I thought I saw like a shoreline when like the seagulls were there, and then they left, and I was like, oh, they got a long way to go.
Because that's what I'm thinking. I'm just like, wait a minute, this movie just ends with both of them just kind of like paddling in the direction that they're hoping is home.
Right? No, because
do they have a compass? Do they even know?
Well, because I think they were paddling that way because like land was within reach because we talked about this off mic. What Quinn was trying to do was drown it, trying to bring it into the shallow water. So you could see as they were heading back, right as he's frying the engine, you can actually see the land.
Oh wow!
So I remember seeing that before, in that earlier scene.
Yeah, because we were leading up to about like how like not a negative, but I was just like when Hooper gets into the cage and then he drops his weapon or whatever, and I was just like the way like how fast they cut just from him dropping it to like it just kind of falls, kind of like the leg too. I was just like, well, like the leg you already knew they were like in the pond. Yeah, they weren't like or in a deep area, but it just fell to the bottom, and I'm like, wait, I thought you're in the ocean. I forgot. Like I was like, I thought you're in the middle of the fucking ocean right now, and I'm like, you're touching the bottom of the ocean. For real. So,
my man was chilling down there too. He was like,
I was just like, wait a minute, how deep water is this? But like I say, I be getting a little stony when I'm watching these movies. Sometimes I be missing shit, and I got to rewind every now and then.
Let's even just talk about that when he's in the. First of all, when he's in the cage, super
terrifying.
Tense, super tense moment.
What are my other options? Do I have a bazooka?
No, they're not like in that
Like, get it.
survival, but like you know how you can swim with like sharks, or like they can get you in the cages. Like what? If,
Oh, I
would
thought
you
you
do-
were,
would
if
you
I
do
were.
that
I thought you were asking him if you were
Oh,
Hooper.
no, like no, not if you're Hooper, but like
I go down there?
would you do that like today? Yeah, like in today's like technology.
A
and
part of
stuff
me,
like
a
that?
part of me would, but like I mean, you definitely would get. I would definitely be freaked out.
After seeing this movie, hell no.
Now, the other, well, yeah, it depends on like
What
how
kind of
far
steel is
like
that?
how far down do they take you to? Like
Too
are you-
far.
too far. I put my toe in the water. I said,
Nope, not like I'll throw some chum out there.
that is.
Bro,
I'll do that.
speaking of that scene where he's like, "Why don't you come down here? I'll throw some chucking this shit," and you see him come up out of the water.
Oh, yeah.
bro, that is such a great scene because it pivots from that to that's also great editing because they cut immediately.
Good.
And you see him backing away. He said, we're gonna need a bigger boat."
Cigarette
But like
can.
you get a close up on all of their faces as like they see this thing.
Well, that's why I also like it's to me it's like paint strokes with like the horror because like he's just kind of like chumming the water or whatever, and then the shark just comes up, and now like that's like a little bit of a jump scare.
Yeah.
Even when Hooper is like swimming, and then that body comes and like kind of just spooks him when he's in the water.
Oh, he's getting the
What
shark
are you gonna
tooth.
Yeah,
that was a good
that
jump.
actually made me jump. I was not expecting that, and I have my headphones in
Yeah.
too, and I'm just watching. I'm like, oh shit! So I will give it some credit. Like it did make me jump on that aspect.
Yeah, there's some really great shots while they're on the boat, the orca, which is also a great name, right? Because orcas hunt great white sharks, you know.
Yeah.
But like, there's some really great scenes where I think Quinn is up on the mast, and you just see him up against like the sky,
Yeah.
kind of teetering back and forth.
Yep.
There's some really good shots of the horizon as well when they're on the boat.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too when I'm thinking about it now. It's just like I feel like another theme is just like the challenges, you know, that they have to face. Like the challenges of like trying to like kill this thing, this monster, being out there, like taking humans and being out on the water where it's like this is not our territory right here.
Yeah.
Technically, he has the advantage.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this shark has the
Not
advantage.
technically, he does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, the shark has the advantage. The boat is deteriorating. You know, like how do we stay, you know, alive during this sinking ship? You know, there's so many different challenges that they have to. Even like when they're on the boat and they're trying to put the tags, like the barrel tags on the shark. You know, and then Hooper's legs get caught in the line.
Oh yeah.
And it almost I was like, dang, like being on the boats and stuff like that, like, yo, your limbs could get cut off.
Even
just
like
by that.
the tank hit old boy Brody in the smack in the face, and
For
knocked his
real.
glasses off.
So you have to
it's
like,
better
work within like this small confinement,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and just like actually just like the technicalities of being out, you know, like being like a shipman.
Well, it
you
shows
know?
like just the franticness of just kind of being on a ship, or being on a
100%.
boat. It's just like, I mean, I've been on a ton of like boats or ships, but it gets kind of crazy when like you're, especially on like a small one like that, when the waves can get rocking, like shit is moving around.
Yeah.
So I mean, especially if you're out there trying to fucking fend off a goddamn great white.
Well, you know what's interesting, like to both of your points, I think when I think about this movie in like in parts or acts, I think like in the earlier part of the movie, he's trying to overcome like the societal obstacles, right, to
Yeah.
dealing with this
Yeah.
threat. And now in the last act, he's having to overcome like the obstacles of nature.
Yeah.
And just like how precarious they are on that small ship. Like, you notice every time he would kind of cross that little, they would come across, it would show like their feet and how narrow that ledge was and how slippery. Like, there's a deliberate reason he's showing. It's like, yo, because one false slip and your ass is in that water.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know what's in there.
No.
So I think like there's like, again, it goes back to like just like the cinematography, like what he the visual storytelling element. Everything from not showing us the shark but showing us the barrels, right? Using that as like hints of, without showing us like where the shark is and or what it looks like, you know.
And this is why this just goes back to like the beginning of the conversation when we were saying, hey, is this a suspense movie, thriller movie? Is this a horror film? I feel like the first half, to your point, when it's about like the people, the community, and like having to like that's like the suspense and like the thrills, you know, like you don't see the shark. You see like things move and like maybe like the shark fin and stuff. The next half of like the film, when you actually they're out there on the water and they're actually having to battle, that's where it gets like instant horror for me, you know, because it's like I feel like everything's just dialed up right now and like you're in the shark's territory right now.
Well, anything on the water is going to make me feel like uneasy.
I mean,
yeah, like I don't even really want to go on a cruise because I don't want to be out there on that fucking open water like that.
Even there's something terrifying about that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because you're just, I mean, it's, I don't know. I feel different about like being like on a plane than like being on the ocean.
This is also why I kind of feel like that. Even at the end, it's crazy too because it's obviously Hooper and Brody, like they're just rafting on. What were they on?
At the end,
whatever remnants that was of the ship,
two tanks and like something, I don't know.
So like at the end of the movie, you would be like, oh my god, they defeated this shark right here, and hopefully, I mean, it just cuts to like the end credits and stuff like that. So we're as viewers, we're like, okay, happy ending, but you're still kind of left like
in the ocean.
They're in the ocean. Did they make it back?
The real horror was coming. Jaws 3D.
Oh no!
That's the real horror was lurking around the corner. A sequel. But that does
real
like,
classic.
Because it's like, I mean, luckily, I'm guessing they make it back to shore, but it's like, hey, it's the ocean. What if like that would have ended with both of them getting just dragged under?
That would be awesome, like Friday 13th.
That could have been like a what if that would have like a post credit, like how like the credits are rolling, you still see them off in the distance, but at the very last credit, you just see them go shunk. Just right at the end. I'm like, that would have been a crazy touch.
That's why I feel like it is brilliant. Like when I first saw it, and I was like, man, they just kind of cut off, kind of quick. It just ended, with the end credits. Yeah. But then again, like you got kind of like I left with that feeling. I'm like, well, they defeated the animal, but are they going to make it back? And they're still in this ocean.
Like, right?
Like what else is
not
out
the
there?
only threat out there?
Yeah. What else is out there? So you got like these like
Two little quick notes about Jaws, though. One, it should definitely be stated that this is based on a novel written by Peter Benchley. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Back in 1974. And Spielberg wasn't originally going to be the director of this movie. The original director didn't know the difference between a whale and a shark, so he got fired. And insert Steven Spielberg.
You hate to see it. We love to see it, though.
But then, this movie grossed, was it like $476 million on only a $9 million budget?
Crazy.
And if you try to adjust that for inflation, that's like well over $2 billion in today's money.
Did they say like this is one of like the first kind of
blockbusters? Yeah, I think this and maybe Star Wars. I've read Star Wars, the first one as well.
Like early blockbusters.
Yeah. But to your point, I think when you adjust for inflation, I think that this movie, I've seen different lists, but it's in both the lists I saw, it's a top 20 movie all time for highest grossing when you account for inflation.
Yeah,
still top 20.
I mean, because you're making almost $500 million in the mid 70s.
Yeah, and the production houses were salivating when they saw this. Like, oh my god, like this, you can make money like this.
Which
Jaws too. Let's go.
Especially when you go and look at the Oscars, like how in the hell does he not get nominated for Best Director? I mean,
yeah, it's a mystery.
It gets nominated for Best Picture, and every other Best Picture nominee got nominated for Best Director, but except for him, which makes you think maybe he was blackballed because he was such a young buck.
Maybe his youth worked against him. Maybe, yeah.
A young man showing promise, and people wanted to hold him back.
Something I saw just to pivot, I'm curious what you guys think about this. Something that I was reading kind of talked about the theme of fatherhood and how central that is to this story. How it's, you know, the desire to protect, and how what really galvanizes Brody to action is when his son is in the pond and almost gets killed, right? And how that really kind of underlies his motivation, right? Where he pressures the mayor's like, no, you're gonna pay Quinn whatever the hell he wants, and we're gonna kill this thing.
Yeah,
you know. So like the role of fatherhood as a theme in this movie.
Yeah, you see that when he's talking to his wife, and like the kids are playing out in like the barge and stuff like that too. And you get like this like kind of like intense feeling too, like, you know, nobody's safe, even you know, they, you know, relatively they're probably in like a safe spot, you know, but
you never know.
But you never know, 100%. You never know. And then like, so he has to be a protector of his family. But then, yeah, he's a protector of like the townspeople. And it's like he's challenged with like motives from the mayor, individuals who are, you know, trying to, you know, there's like this bounty out to like try to kill the shark and stuff like that. Okay, we got to make sure that this is the right shark, you know?
Yeah.
that stuff gets crazy.
That's like when they get when they finally are able to like slice open that shark, and like to do it's like clean. Well, first like you get like some weird liquid that's like coming. I know it looks like milk that's coming out of it.
Almond milk.
And then I mean that kind of shows you what kind of like just eaters they are. They just eat fucking anything.
Everything.
And they say that repeatedly in the movie. They say that multiple times.
That's actually a great scene when like just like how it's shot too, and he's like just pulling stuff out and like the license plate.
I mean, it's
flies out.
gross. It's because it's supposed to be disgusting, and it's like informative as far as like, oh, these things will eat anything, so be on the fucking lookout.
Yeah,
right.
And I mean, very knowledgeable of like, see that's a Louisiana license plate, and so he's like, oh, this probably came up from the Gulf somewhere.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even notice that. That was cool.
One thing that was really cool. We're talking about just like the role of parenthood. I think that scene where the mother of the little boy, when she comes up to him and she slaps him, you know, she's like, they told me a girl was attacked here a few nights ago and killed, like, and you knew, and you let people go into the water anyways. Like when she slaps him, I think that's like a really pivotal moment for him, because he knows he was wrong. He succumbed to the pressure of the mayor and this town elites. Let's be real, because they were like the power brokers in this town, and he caved because he wasn't strong enough in that moment to fight them off, right?
Yeah.
And say, no, this is what we're gonna do.
Exactly. He just let them get in his ear.
Yeah.
Only thing I didn't like about that scene though is like very emotional scene. But I hate scenes when it's like emotional and like they're giving like this dialogue and they're supposed to be crying and like you don't see a tear.
She just, I guess,
they just give you that ugly cry face. Yeah, for real too.
I guess that's just that 70s look.
Back in the day, she was a 10.
Well, I mean, this movie obviously is beloved across the board. I mean, are there any negatives from you two? Because, I mean, I'll say something if you guys don't have anything.
Yeah,
I'll go real quick. The biggest thing for me is when you watch this, the first thing I was like, this is kind of like a white horror film, you know? Like, this is a white horror. I'm also kind of thinking about like, okay, what time is it? Like, it's like, I mean, I don't know if this was.
There aren't any black people in this movie.
There's very few black people.
I think it's supposed to be set in the 70s.
Steven?
Yeah, for real. For real. There's very few like people of color.
That's
in
why
this
he wasn't
film.
nominated. Bingo.
That's why I got him right there too. He learned. He learned. But like when you think about it, it's like I'm like, you look at the town and it's like it's a very white town. There's not a lot of people of color in this town. I mean, obviously it's Amity, so I'm pretty damn sure there's probably not gonna be that many colored people up in here. But still, like you still like recognize that, you know, and like it's a classic horror film. So I'm always thinking about like, all right, when was this made? 75. Like what was going on and stuff. And I was like, a part of me is like, it would have been interesting to like kind of see a little bit more like inclusion in that, but also I think it does kind of play to actually the time of when it was as well, and then also like. At in 75, I mean, what is your biggest fear in 75? You know, we probably don't have
like Watergate in America.
Yeah.
Well,
Because I try to put it in perspective
Marijuana.
from time, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is probably like, and I think this is probably like why it was like a huge success of a movie too, you know? It's like these natural kind of disasters, you know? Like, we don't, I mean, obviously, like, you know, we like live now where we see some of the craziest stuff on social media now,
Yeah.
you know? But in that time now, no social and stuff, it's just like what you saw in your everyday, you know? So
Yeah.
a shark attack would be horrifying, you know?
Yeah, for sure, especially one of that fucking size. So I'm curious, something you're saying about kind of thinking about what was going on at this time, and I think about just kind of how life has kind of panned out over the last 5 years. And I think that this movie resonates and I think has aged really well when I think about the COVID era, because I think about the parallels between that movie and this movie in the sense that there's a public health emergency and leadership fails to address it effectively when they know what the right thing would be to do, which was to declare a public emergency, kind of close down these public space.
Yeah.
But rather than do that, they looked after their own self-interests. And I think that when I think about that in the context of COVID and what we saw in some parts of this country, I think the themes of this movie, especially in that first half, like we talked about earlier, have aged well, very well.
Yeah.
That's not a negative, but that came to mind when you were talking about like what's going on with then, and I think about like the staying power of this movie, and I think about that aspect as well, like of what we experienced in COVID.
Yeah.
And this kind of resistance and failure of leadership to really effectively guide us through something like that.
Yeah, it's
you know?
yeah, no, 100%. I hear that too, and I'm also like, I was like, man, like, listen, stay out the fucking water. Movie's over.
Especially how often were we saying over these last 4 years, just put your mask on?
Yeah.
Jesus, why is it so hard?
For
You know what I mean?
real.
For real, like, right?
For real.
It's, well, especially like in the fucking ocean. It's like, just why are you fucking around in the ocean? Just stick to the pools.
Oh yeah.
Stick even like the river is okay, but like, man, I don't play around that fucking ocean. You just don't know what's out there, and this movie proves that shit.
Yeah, and that's like a little bit of like, I mean, I know we're talking about negative and stuff like that, but I guess a little bit of the brilliance in here because it all, like, you do get the scale of like, because I was thinking like, yo, Jaws in like a city form, you know, like where there's like shit ton of people versus this very small town, very small beach town. It feels very small. The community is very small. There's like these key people. You know, there's only like a couple like main characters in this film, and like you would like if you went to like one of the small towns, there'd probably only be a couple, key contributors,
Right.
So you do kind of get the feeling of like this.
It immerses you in the town, yeah.
And like you almost kind of feel like you're like one of like the town members,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But it's like, it's just like, man, like I'm telling myself, I'm like, yo, just stay out of the water right now. You know, can we just stay out the water?
Stay the fuck out of the water.
Yeah, for real. But it's like, okay, well, we got to. It is a beach town. Well, get the stands up.
One negative I will have for it. I mean, it's not. I mean, this is just me for personally, because I can't really knock the film like on like it's shot well, it's acted well. I don't have any like negatives as far as that, but when it comes to like making my score and everything, I don't know if I'll ever rewatch this movie ever again. Just because it's got a few things working against it for me. Because shark movies are just, there's not, I mean, besides if you take Jaws out, the only thing you're pretty much working with is Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, I agree.
For me, and then like you got, what's it called, The Shallows? I think with Blake Lively.
Oh yeah, that
one's not too bad. That's okay, but rewatchability. If somebody wanted to watch Jaws, I would probably rewatch it again, but I would never like actually pick up and watch this movie just on a whim. It just does not have that appeal for me. It's like it is very character driven, and it builds on like the moments of like suspense and everything. But if I'm gonna rewatch something like something times, I'm gonna need a few more shark attacks. I'm gonna need a few more bodies hitting that ocean.
Well, to your point, I think something that was really thrusted upon like Spielberg and the team was that the mechanical sharks were failing so often. Like because they made it a point to film
Use real sharks.
Well, yeah, right. No, I'm not even going to be in that movie. But they were talking about the salt water in the sea was like breaking these machines down pretty regularly. So because of like the constant malfunctioning of the sharks, that impacted their editing. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna have to work with less. Like, what kind of cues can we do? You know, like for example, remember when those two idiots are trying to use his wife's roast to catch the shark, and the shark pulls it off, and you see the plywood of the dock drifting, and then we see it turn as he's like coming back to get him.
Yeah.
Like, see, cues like that, I think go work in his favor for like the visual storytelling. But to go back to the topic about negative, I think for me, one of the things I think with all the characters, I think you get to see a lot of between Hooper, right? You get a lot about his background. He comes from money, but he's doing this because he loves it. And the class dynamic between him and Quinn was like really entertaining. Mm-hmm. You get like a lot of substance about Quinn in that monologue about going down, in the ship, the USS Indianapolis, how that like clearly was a formative, traumatic experience for him.
Yeah.
And I think with Brody, you see the things that he's facing, like the pressure from the community, but I didn't get a chance to know him so much as a man. Like I kind of wanted more personal details about him. Like, why did they move from New York? What made them give up life there? You know, because I mean, they kind of alluded that, but I just kind of wanted to know a little bit more about him as a man. Because I mean, we do get some of that by the way that he responds to the crisis, right? Mm-hmm. But I would have liked to have gotten a little bit more substance from him, because I do think he is the main character. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was something that I did find lacking a little bit, but maybe that's just nitpicking.
Yeah,
I think you get enough of his character through all the adversity he has to overcome, including his fear of the water.
I mean, I'm sure like if there was probably like some sort of director's cut of this movie out there, because it's only like just over 2 hours. I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
It's not like a 2 hours like in 20 or anything like that. So I bet if there was like some sort of like 2.5 hour cut of this movie, maybe you get a little bit more of that out of him, but.
Well, before we get to our scores, is there anything you guys want to speak to about either the score or? I mean, I think it's definitely worth talking about just like the legacy of this movie, because it's so undeniable. Well, I mean, it's just
the score. I mean, the score. I think the score makes the movie.
Yeah,
I agree.
The score makes the movie. Like, I know some people were saying like, hey, like try to watch the movie on mute and stuff like that, and obviously it just doesn't have like the same impact. But like when you see, especially like when you see like those underwater shots, and you get the like that iconic Jaws music, I mean, to your point earlier, it's just so iconic. We're just like, oh, the shark is somewhere around here.
That is a trigger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Instant.
Yep.
That's just like, I mean, I will give it the horror nod in that aspect, where it's like, even this, like you said, in the Halloween aspect, once you start hearing kind of like that score a bit, or even Jason, when you start hearing that, you're like, oh fuck, like because like if you're in there, you're like, okay, where is it at? Where he at?
Right.
But because but the character on screen doesn't know what's about to hit him, like whether it's a shark coming out or a dude with a machete about to jump out. So I mean, the score has lived on. This is John Williams, who they won best score that year. John Williams is a renowned, probably the best composer to probably ever do it. I don't know if that's even arguable. Like, damn, you're getting a John Williams and Steven Spielberg team up. I don't think you can go wrong with that.
Yeah.
But one aspect of Jaws that has lived on, I want to say, is their poster. Their poster is iconic.
That's still iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll give it that as well.
Well, I think we're talking about the impact of this movie. I think one of the things that this movie does so good that I think you see in some other horror movies is that actually you don't see it a lot, right? You see from the POV of the shark, right? I mean, that to me, another successful kind of monster movie that does that right is Predator. I mean, those are the two that come to mind, where you see so much through the eyes of like the antagonist. You know. You feel me?
That's a
I don't think that's common, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of some other movies where you see the POV from the attack. Because I mean, Halloween, you don't get that.
Yeah, I mean,
not really.
You kind of you tell, because do you only get it like when you can hear him breathing, just like that those moments. You can get it sometimes. But they're not like long like shots or anything like that. It's just usually like kind of a quick thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that doesn't happen like too often in like a whether it's a horror,
monster
thriller,
movie,
monster type of movie.
Godzilla, you don't get that. Not really. I've been trying to think like from their POV.
No,
it's more the society, the people's response.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I think you know, and then you think about, you know, a movie like Alien, right? Another, probably my favorite, or certainly one of them, horror movies. I mean, that is arguably Jaws in space. I mean, I know that's been said, but I mean, I think space represents everything unknown and so much unknown and terrifying, just like the ocean itself, you know. So I think I could definitely see like the influence of something like that on that movie.
One other thing I will just touch on is like the relationship between was it Quint and Hooper?
Yeah.
As like just like their relationship with one another, just how like it starts out, they're just kind of like, oh, this guy's just like this college boy, and these guys just like, I don't need to hear about this hard working bullshit, whatever. Like they were saying, like they obviously are kind of like butting heads early on, and then they get on the ship and they're still kind of butting heads. Like all three of them are butting heads in a way. But just them two, and then how like they're sharing like like scars and how they got.
Oh, yeah, pissing contest, right?
Yeah, like I got that beat, boom, boom, boom. And I'm kind of thinking, like, yeah, he kind of got your beat, and then he comes back like, oh, what you got?
He's like the tattoo removal, right? That's a great transition.
Yeah, but then when he starts talking, once it gets more serious, he delivers like two like really good like monologues where those on the ship, or when you first get introduced, like in the whatever room like they're in, when he scratches he scratches the chalkboard and everything, which he makes the sound that everybody loves to hear. But yeah, that's that relationship was nice to see.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Well, we've glazed this movie enough, so let's get into these scores. What you got, Sporty Thieves?
I'm gonna give this. I think after everything, it was an enjoyable movie. I hadn't seen it. One. I would probably give it maybe like an 8 out of, or what is this?
Out of 5.
Out of 5.
Yeah.
So I'll give it a 4. 3.5, 4 out of 5. For me, it's just like I kind of go back to, I'm like, you know, if we're gonna say that this is a horror film, like, is this like the best like animal horror film that I think about? And like for me, Cujo is still like up there.
Oh,
Cujo is still like probably one of the.
I didn't think about that. That's a good one.
Like that's.
What about Cujo. Anaconda?
I was even thinking
Also
about that
good.
too. Like Anaconda. Like Anaconda.
Anaconda's good. Like it has like. It's not like when you're talking about cinema, like it doesn't compare to Jaws.
Yeah, definitely not
but
like that.
Entertaining.
It is more fun.
Yeah.
It's a more fun set. So like,
and it's a little bit of a journey movie too.
Yeah, they got to go into the jungle.
Yeah, but when I think about
Ice Cube and a big ass snake.
Yeah, but when I think
John
about,
Voight
And J-Lo.
John Voight was fucking.
John Voight looking sweaty and disgusting.
He was looking scared a little too hard at J-Lo.
And Angelina Jolie came from you.
Yeah, for real. You got to keep
God, he looks so gross.
Grimy as hell.
Especially when a snake spits him up.
Oh, God.
He like winks too.
Man, maybe we gotta review that.
That's gonna be on like the next thing. But like, yeah, when I just think about like, you know, like animal movies that are kind of horror and like this thing, like I said, Cujo's up there with me when it's about like actual like terror or something like.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's something we can face every day too. Like, I mean, dogs are just
the rabid dog.
Yeah, but even just like, cause you think like, oh, this dog is nice, and then
nope.
Oh yeah, and like actually like being like locked in the car and all that stuff like that. So
and a hot ass day.
But I still get like I think this like this movie actually it did hold up. Haven't seen it in like I haven't seen the movie. Man, in like years, and I'm talking about decades and stuff like that, you know. So like to actually go back and I'm like, actually, it did hold up. Like the effects, the animatronics and stuff like that actually looked good. It did like that last half, like the last like maybe like what was it, 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes when like they're actually battling the shark. It was intense. It felt like a battle. So I mean, it's a good mark for me. So you know, I would say like maybe 3.5, 4 on my scale.
3.5 or 4? Which one are you standing on, man?
I'm gonna give it. Listen, I'll give it a 4 because it is iconic. You know, it's an early film. It is iconic. I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
All right. I'll start. I'll go with mine. I will give it. You know, I got the official score. I'm giving it as a 4. Just because it is a well-made movie, I can't knock it on that aspect. I mean, I can't think of like how I would like actually improve on the film or anything like that without being like, oh, just give it more shark attacks or some dumb shit like that. But the movie is damn near perfect as far as like how it's shot, how the acting, how it's written and everything. I mean, yeah, you can have a couple little plot holes here or there, just about like you said, like how it ends and like, are these motherfuckers just still out there in the ocean? Do they get saved and what stuff like that? But it comes down because I probably would just never rewatch this movie unless somebody else really wanted to watch it and they didn't want to see it. If they've already seen Jaws and they're like, you want to go watch Jaws? I'll be like, I mean, is there anything else?
Would you see this on a big screen?
Yeah, I'll watch it on the theater.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I definitely would agree.
Yeah, I'll watch it in the theater, like since I've only seen it like pretty much just on my phone and at home. Yeah. So if somebody wanted to see it in the theater, yeah, I'll be down. But if they just want to watch it at home, nah, there's too much shit at home to watch. Yeah. So like I'll pass on that one. But like, yeah, and the whole aspect of like is it a horror movie like Sporting Thieves said. Like I said, that's more of just like an irritant thing for me, just because like I said, the whole like is Die Hard a Christmas movie? I'm like, it's one of those things where I'm like, fuck no, I should just knock this movie down a point just for that shit. But no, I'll stand on it that it's a 4. It's a pretty damn near perfect film, but it will lose a point because I'll probably never rewatch it.
Man,
unless I was forced to. Unless it's on the big screen. There's an asterisk behind it.
Man, I think there's a long list of monster movies. I think there's a very short list of really, really good ones. I think a lot of them can kind of border on derivative, especially when, like Jaws is a great example, right? I mean, you've got Sharknado, Meg 2. I didn't even know we needed the first one, but here we are. So I think that, when I think about the list of, excellent monster movies. For me, I can't think outside of Alien. I would put Alien above this because it's personally one of my favorites. But honestly, I give this a 5, man. And I say that because I think the cinematography. Now I'm going to talk about the impact or the legacy, right? I think that the cinematography on this movie, despite being 2 hours, is very lean. I can't think of really any waste in this movie. I think that the dialogue is crisp and sharp. You can see the tension in damn near every scene, which I think is a testament to not only the score, but the way that it was shot and edited. I think the storyline is very, very tight. I think that the dynamic between the 3 main characters is a really great part of the story, the last act. Seeing these men kind of bond in the way that Quinn, the soldier Quinn did, as they're facing this beast, right? So for me, yeah, I think that all those things combined, and the fact that I do think that this is a movie that I would highly recommend. I think no matter the decade, right? I think this movie ages well, to your point. But yeah, I stand with that. I'd say this is a 5 for me.
And I kind of know what you said. Like the shark is only in it for like you said, like 4 or 5 minutes of the movie in total, and so it's still
actually seeing the shark.
Yeah, actually seeing the shark, like and actually seeing it doing like some action and stuff. And in a 2-hour movie, the movie kind of like flew by in a way. Like I said, speaking from somebody who hasn't seen it since they were a kid, and I did not like it at all. The movie, once I checked the little thing, it was already an hour into it, and I was like, damn, this shit kind of flew by. So, it's a Spielberg movie, and so I don't even know if he'll even make like a shitty type of movie. Damn near everything on his resume is going to be pretty damn near solid.
Yeah, he's a hit maker.
And this is just one of the many that he has.
Yep.
So.
All right, well, that's our review, folks. Thank you for joining us on 5 on It. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Dun-dun.